Hello, everyone. It is Chef Jason, your summer camp chef here at YMCA The Pines, coming to you pre-recorded from out back of the Akanikan Dining Hall. Wanted to get some fresh air and a little bit of sunshine, so I thought I'd come and sit back here outside and while I recorded this introduction to the segment that we're about to watch. First, I wanted to thank you for spending some time with me here on the social media platform of your choice. Wherever you found this, thank you. So today we are going to make some quick pickles. Bread and butter quick pickles, to be exact. They're the sweeter version as opposed to the dill pickles. They're a bit of a sweeter pickle. So I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to demonstrate in the video how I make them. And in the recipe that I make it might be a little bit larger than you want to try at home. So you're more than welcome to take the recipe and sort of cut it in half, do the math, and divide up all the ingredients, by half or by quarter or whatever you're comfortable with making. You'll be able to find the written recipe on our blog at ycamp.org, and then just click on the blog and you'll be able to find the written recipe there, so you don't need to take notes while the video is going on. So it'll be there for you, and it may be even posted above or below this video, depending on what platform you're watching us on. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. So first up, we're going to watch and see how we protect our hands while we're working in the kitchen, especially with sharp knives. We use these blue nitrile gloves, and I'll explain why in a bit. We put one glove on, then we use what we call a cut glove. It's made out of a Kevlar material. They are cut resistant. They are not cut proof. You can cut through them if you try hard enough, but they are cut resistant. They will protect our hands from getting cut. We put another glove on top of the Kevlar glove, a glove on the other hand, and we should be good to go. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Next up, I'm going to demonstrate two cutting techniques. You'll notice how I curl my fingers under so they don't stick out and get cut. This is the chop. The knife comes fully off the cutting board. And this is the rock, where you rock the knife, but part of the knife stays connected with the cutting board at all times. Now we're going to slice our cucumbers for the pickles. And you'll notice I use the chop technique myself, but you can cut however you're comfortable. And in the recipe, you'll see I mention that the cucumbers are to be cut in half moons. This is what I mean by half moons. You'll see the cucumbers, I split them down the middle, and then they're cut in half. Now, earlier I mentioned that we use the blue colored nitrile gloves. This is just in case there's a chance that you do nick the glove, cut the glove. You'll be able to very easily see the blue piece of nitrile material in the product that you're cutting. If you were using a traditional clear latex or vinyl glove and you happen to nick the glove and cut a piece off, you might not notice that right away, and that could end up in somebody's meal, and we don't want that. As I mentioned before, the recipe that I'm using called for 4 cucumbers. If that seems like a lot there, if your cutting board is getting a little crowded and that seems like too many cucumbers, then you can certainly cut the recipe down in half. I'm sweeping the cucumbers off the board to make some more room, and we'll continue chopping cucumbers. Just a little knife safety tip. Cutting with a sharp knife is much, much safer than cutting with a dull knife. When you cut with a dull knife, you tend to put more pressure on the knife to get through the item that you're trying to cut, and you have a tendency to slip more often. And when you slip, putting more pressure, it tends to cut you pretty bad. So a nice sharp knife with very light pressure should take care of the job very easily. Now we're going to slice half of an onion to go into this recipe. I'm going to save the other half for something else. And I get asked this all the time, but no, I do not cry anymore when I cut onions. I find the key to not crying while cutting onions is just a very sharp knife and work very fast, so it doesn't have enough time to affect you. Now we're going to put the onions in with the cucumbers and move on to the next step. Adding our salt, our 3 tablespoons of kosher salt, in with the onions and cucumbers. We're going to toss that around. And what that's going to do is start to extract some natural water, some liquid from the cucumbers and the onions. That's going to allow the pickling seasonings, the brine, to penetrate into the vegetables more now that some of their natural waters have been eliminated. We're going to cover this and put it in the refrigerator for about 2 hours or so. And you will see on this plate here that I've got the colander rested on. You will see the results in a later clip of the water that will seep out of the vegetables. If you're wondering where we are here, that is one of our walk-in refrigerators. Now on to the liquid part of the brine, the pickling seasonings. We're going to start with our apple cider vinegar, 4 cups, and just a little bit of water. Next up we have sugar, and we're going to throw in, we've got some pre-chopped garlic. You can chop it yourself, you can slice it, but we've got some jarred pre-chopped garlic. We're going to throw in about 4 cloves. Next up is some of our dried spices, mustard seed, and we're going to use 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. And then we have some celery seed. It's going to call for 2 teaspoons. Now, I only had a half a teaspoon when I made this video, so you're going to see me put in 4, but they're 4 half teaspoons. So that's going to equal 2 teaspoons. And the same is going to go for the next ingredient, black peppercorns. Same thing, it's going to call for 2 teaspoons. But again, I only have the half teaspoon, so you'll see me put 4 in there. But that's still 2 teaspoons. And last but not least is turmeric. 1 teaspoon of turmeric. And I'm just going to give this a little toss together. This will all be going in with the apple cider vinegar and water to boil to make our pickling brine. Now we'll move over to the stove, add in our water and apple cider vinegar. And then we'll add in our sugar and spices. Turn on the fire. So we got to bring this to a boil. And we'll just give it a good stir, start that sugar on its way to dissolving in the liquid. Now we want to bring this up to a boil at this point to move on to the next steps. So out comes the cucumbers after the 2 hours in the fridge, and you can see the liquid that's collected on the plate there. That's all come out of the cucumbers and onions themselves after salting them. And we're going to take our liquid is now at a boil. We're going to add in our cucumbers and onions. And we get every last little bit into the pot. And give it a nice little stir. Now we want this to come back to a boil. And once we come back to a boil, we'll put the lid on and turn the heat off and let them sit. This is where the cooling process happens. I will explain at the end that because of the industrial nature of our kitchen, I'm able to cool the pickles a little differently than you will at home, so I didn't show that here. Follow the written recipe on our blog for the full at-home cooling instructions. Without further ado, the final product, bread and butter pickles. Now these are fully cooled. They spent the night in the walk-in refrigerator, and they're ready to eat. Thanks again for watching. Please make sure you check out the written recipe on our blog. And just in case there's anything that I left out, I know towards the end, some of the cooling processes that I describe in the written recipe, it's what you want to follow at home. But I didn't necessarily. I have a big walk-in refrigerator, and I can kind of skirt around some of the other cooling processes that you're going to want to do at home. So please make sure you check out the blog and follow the recipe there. And yeah, thanks again for spending some time with me, and I will see you soon. Bye.